Okay, so before we talk about how to do the frequent pattern analysis and mining, we have to introduce some basic concepts first. In this page, we show some basic concepts we may need to use in the following pages. The first concept we have is called item set. So from the term, we can see the item set denotes a set of items which can contain either one or more items, right? And we also have one specific size of item set, which is called k item set. This denotes a set of items which can contain k items, right, in the set. We show an example like x is a k item set. It equals x1 until xk, right? This x denotes the item we have. Another term we have is called absolute support or support count of some item sets, right? So in this page we show an example like given a k item set x. This support or support count denotes the frequency or the occurrence of an item set x in the data set we can get, right? How many times this kind of x appears among all the data we can get in the database system. Besides this absolute support, we also have this relative support. It's denoted by S. S denotes a fraction of the transaction that contains this x, this item set. It denotes the probability that a transaction will contain x, right? Compared with the absolute support, it denotes the numbers. However, this relative support will also consider the size of all the transactions or the database system size, right, for defining the support. And we can see an item set x is frequent if this x support is no less than the mean support threshold. If the item set appears many times, which is larger than the threshold, then we can say this item set as frequent. And on the left-hand side, we have an example. Like we have a table containing different transactions. The first column denotes the transaction ID. The second column denotes the item bought or purchased in the transaction. So for the transaction 10, and we have 0 items bought or purchased in the transaction, it has beer, nuts, and diapers. And for the transaction 20, we have beer, coffee, diapers. For transaction 30, we have beer, diapers, eggs. 40, we have nuts, eggs, milk. And 50, we have nuts, coffee, diapers, eggs, and milk. Right. So based on this data we can get in the database system, we can define a item set contains 2 items, like beer and diapers. Right. This beer, diapers, can compose a 2 item set, right? The k equals to 2, right? Because we only have 2 items in the set. We can define this x as this item set, or we can say this as a pattern we can define, right? Then what will be the support for these patterns? According to the data we can get, this transaction contains the beer, diapers at the same time. We have one count here, right? This one also contains beer and diapers. This one also contains beer and diapers. So according to the data we can get for the beer, diapers, this 2 item set, its absolute support will be about 3, because we have 3 counts of the occurrence of this beer, diapers appears at the same time. So its absolute support will be 3. How about its relative support? Because we have 5 different transactions, 3 of them will contain beer and diapers at the same time. Therefore, its relative support will be about 3 over 5. It equals 0.6. So therefore, the relative support for the beer, diapers, this item set will be 0.6. And we can name this pattern as frequent if this one is larger than the mean threshold. If we define the mean support threshold to be 0.5, then we can define this beer, diaper to be a frequent pattern, right? Okay, so this is some basic concept we need to define before we talk about how to do the frequent pattern mining and analyze. And besides this concept, we also need to introduce some information about the rules. What is the rule? So, we are still using the same example we showed in the previous page. And based on patterns we can discover according to the previous descriptions. And we may find some rules. This rule denotes, we can define a rule to be x implies y. Both is x and y that denote some item set. For example, if we define x to be diapers, y to be the beer, it means when people buy some diapers, they will also buy some beers. This is defined as rule, right? It's some item will imply some other items according to the data we can get. And if according to the data we can get for the rules, if they have some support, so for the rules we can define 2 different concepts. The first one is called support, and the second one is called confidence. So what is support for a rule? Formally, the support for a rule denotes the probability that a transaction contains X and Y. If we have some transaction contains both X and Y, we can define the probability, or this fraction, to be the support for the rule. And we can also define a confidence score for the rule as well. It denotes a conditional probability that the transaction contains X or it contains Y. They're different, right? This one denotes the probability contains both X and Y. This one denotes a conditional transaction probability, right? Contains X and also contains Y. And we show you as an example according to the data we can show here, right? If we define the mean support to be 50 and the mean confidence to be 50, and we can define some frequent patterns, right? The first one is beer, the second one is nuts, the third one is diapers, and we'll have eggs, beer, and diapers. According to the data we can get from the previous page, right? We have beer, it appears 3 times, this 3, right? And we also have nuts to be appearing 3 times, as well diapers appearing 4 times, eggs appearing 3 times, beer and diapers appearing 3 times together, right? So according to this frequent patterns, we can find some rules, right? The first rule we can define is that beer implies diapers. According to the probability, right? For the transaction which contains both beer and diapers, it will be about 60%, right? How about its confidence? So among all the transactions contains beers, how many of them will also contain diapers? Among all the transactions contains beers, which will be all the first 3, right? We have 3 transactions contains beers, this one, and all of them will contain diapers. In other words, its conditional probability for this rule, beer implies diapers will be about 100%, right? Therefore, for the beer and diaper, this rule, beer implies diaper, its support will be about 60%. Its confidence score will be about 100%, right? And we can also find another rule, which will be diaper implies beer. How about its support and confidence? According to the definition of support, it will be the same as this one, right? Because they both contain beer and diapers. The probability will be about 6% among all the transactions we can get, right? How about its confidence score? Here it will be very different, because here we are considering the conditional probability. Contains this X or contains Y, right? Among all the transactions contains the X, which will be the diapers, will be the first one, second one, the third one, and the last one, right? We have 4 transactions contains diapers. However, only 3 of them will contain beers, right? So the confidence score will be about 3/4, right? Which will be about 75% instead. So you can see for the rules containing the same items but in different orders, their support will be the same. However, the confidence score will be very different. Okay, so this example we want to introduce here for some basic concepts we need to use in the following pages for defining the algorithm for the frequent pattern analysis in the mining.